All right, so it seems we have quite a big group of people that have joined us so far this afternoon. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on getting to know NeuroTracker X. My name is Christopher Gagno, Customer Care Manager here at NeuroTracker, and I am joined today with our Product Manager, base of NeuroTracker Academy, and my good friend, Francis McInnes. In our webinar today, Francis will be going over some of the basics of the software and how to use it. And if any of you have questions, feel free to write the questions in the chat below in the Q&A section. And we will get to those questions during our call. I see that we've already had a question come in about whether or not this webinar will be recorded. And the answer is yes, it will be recorded and posted in the NeuroTracker Academy. We will also send an email as well once the recording is ready. So I'll now pass the time over to Francis. Francis, take it away.
Great, thanks so much, Chris. And hi, everyone. As Chris mentioned, my name is Francis McInnes, and I'm a product manager here at NeuroTracker. And today we're going to be doing, just as the title describes, really providing you with the fundamentals of using NeuroTracker X as an administrator or a trainer. And so this is meant to provide you with really the most relevant information that you can use on a day-to-day basis. And so we won't be going into every feature in detail, but we will, like I said, be covering the most impactful information for how you can use this as an administrator or trainer. So we're going to go through some of the basics of the system. And as this is the fundamentals, what we're going to do is build this into a series that'll have more webinars that really cover best practices from a user perspective, as well as more of the advanced features. And that will be coming up in the coming weeks, and you can find those housed in NeuroTracker Academy. All right, so what is NeuroTracker X? NeuroTracker X is really 10 years of updates in one software. So some of you may be familiar with the NeuroTracker standalone system and the cloud system, which are our legacy systems. And the NeuroTracker standalone was limited to a single device. And so that was really intended for on-site training. And as the years evolved, there was more of an interest in remote and integrated training. And that's where NeuroTracker Cloud bridged the gap a little bit, but the systems were not integrated. So it still didn't provide an excellent user experience when it came to sharing data across what was happening on-site and at home. And so NeuroTracker X has really been designed with that telehealth monitoring and remote monitoring and training in mind. And it's a fully accessible platform that can be accessed on Windows, Mac, Android, which is coming very soon, and iOS, which will be developed later this year. And what we wanted to do was make it a platform that would also allow the various clinicians and practitioners and trainers who use our system, who are experts in their own domains, to use the system in ways that really allowed them to apply that expertise. So we built in advanced features and custom features that allow for program design, advanced data analytics, as well as advanced parameters. So before we get into talking too much about the system, what I want to do is just quickly remind everyone about the differences between the accounts, because you may hear the terms administrator, trainer, and user. And so a user account is pretty straightforward. It's just a single user license where an end user can log into the system and train on their own with a program assigned to them. An administrator account is what you get when you purchase NeuroTracker X. And so that is included as a part of the organization. And it's what allows you to log into the platform. You have oversight on everything that's happening. You can add your own users, manage those permissions, and you can also manage all of the license, the billing, and everything that happens in the organization. An administrator can sign up a trainer who only has oversight on the users assigned to them. And so they're only able to add users if given permission by the administrator. And this allows the administrator to have a little bit more oversight on how many licenses are coming in and out of the organization. But trainers can manage their user permissions. And so where a trainer is directly relevant is if, say, you're a clinical site that has multiple locations and you want to keep the data separate and private according to the various locations. Or let's say if you have a single site, but maybe you're partnering with researchers or team athletes where you want them to be involved, but you don't want them to have oversight on all of your data. You can sign those accounts up as trainers, and that'll allow you a little bit more privacy and control. So if you're working in a single location where everybody is sharing users, sharing patients or athletes or what have you, sometimes it's not as necessary to add separate trainers unless you really want that data to be kept separate. So when it comes to managing accounts, this is going to be the most probably frequently visited page on the platform, and you visit this page by going from the Home tab to the Organization tab, and we'll walk through a demo in a second. But this page is really important for adding users and trainers, managing the permissions that are associated with an account, accessing user dashboards, managing the programs assigned to a user, and downloading data. So this page is all about the, like I said, the adding and managing of the accounts within the organization. So some important icons you want to be aware of, and the first one here is pretty intuitive, the Add User icon. The Settings icon represents user permissions. The graph icon represents accessing a user dashboard, and then the outward arrow here represents accessing or exporting the data, sorry. So this represents the Organization tab, and as you can see here, the Users tab is by default, and this is where you see all of the users listed within your organization. Now, chances are when you first open the system, you're going to want to add a new user, and you can do that by clicking the button up on the right side here. And you can do this two ways. Manual input is doing one at a time, which would be the most common, but I just want to quickly show you that you can also upload a file, which allows you to bulk upload multiple users at one time until you download a CSV, input all the information, and then the system automatically creates these users for you. Manual input would be the most common, which allows you to do it two ways. By inviting a user, you're using an email address, and this is a standard account invitation where you input their email, fill in the required fields, and then they receive that email invitation and can sign up on their own. Whereas Create allows you to bypass that email invitation. And this is really great for on-the-spot training in clinic or on site, where you create the password in the account for that user and you put in all of the information. So again, this allows you to bypass the email invitation process, which is great for getting training right away. You can also either list users as active or inactive. And so this is relevant if you're preparing to have users come into the clinic. So by activating a user when you create them or invite them, you're allowing them to train on the system right away. So this means that they're going to use a license as soon as they sign up. If you're, say, getting ready for athletes or a group of individuals who are going to be coming and they're going to be doing some training or, say, in a research study and you want to do some prep to get them ready, you can list them as inactive and they won't actually use the license until you activate them. So let's say that you've had a chance to add several users to your organization. So when you come to this page, what you're going to see is all of the users listed. And you can filter this by the name, the group, the program, the trainer, or the status. And most people will filter by status, so you see all the active users up top, and you can see who are the inactive users that are waiting to activate their licenses at the bottom. So let's say that you want to activate a user, as I just said, if you listed them as inactive first, you just find them in the list. And remember that account permissions icon that I mentioned, you can activate them right away up at the top. And then this again will allow them to train immediately. And note here that the delete user is available. It's important to know that you can only delete users if they're inactive, because active users that are using a license can't be deleted till they're deactivated. So if you want to have an active user access their dashboard, you're ready to begin training, all you have to do is just click on the graph icon and that'll directly take you to their user dashboard. And so we'll have another webinar that's dedicated to this, but the graph icon in the system will always represent user dashboards, and that's how you access it there. So as I mentioned, you have the users listed by default, but you can also view and manage on this page the groups, which would be demographic data. So say you have your athletic patients, maybe you have soccer athletes, concussion patients, however you want to categorize for advanced data analytics later. Then you can also manage the trainers in the organization. And so you may have some trainers, but you may not have any at all, depending on your setup. And you can see that the add trainer function is here as well, and it's it is identical to adding a new user to the system. So it's pretty straightforward, simple process. And so lastly, when you have everybody in your organization, you have their accounts ready. As I mentioned before, there's going to be programs assigned to these users, and programs are new to NeuroTracker X. We'll talk about those in a second. But when you sign up a new user, you need to assign them a program so that they're ready to begin training. And you may want to manage those programs. So you may assign one and want to change it up a little bit. So all you have to do here is just select the name, and you'll see that manage user becomes available. So here you would select program, And you can see that the general population program is assigned to this user right now. But if you would like to change that, all you have to do is find the program in the list, select the one that you like, and then just use these interactive arrows to move the programs in and out. So if you were to add one by mistake, all you have to do is deselect or select it and just move it back into the queue and find the one that you want and added it. So with this, you can either skip to the next program, which allows you to end the current program early, or you can just leave it as it is. And that would mean that when they finish that general population program, they would be able to have programs ready for them that would be up next. And so as you can see here, by selecting a user, these features on the right become available. So the export data that I mentioned, you can download that spreadsheet directly onto your computer. It'll just download as a standard CSV file. And then you have the ability to manage the users across groups, trainers, and programs. So as I mentioned, the NeuroTracker X programs are brand new to this most recent release of the software. The legacy systems did not have as robust programs as the new NeuroTracker X system. And this is really what supports that integration with remote monitoring and telehealth, because now users don't have to train off one-off sessions. They can have a full customized program if you have that system, or a pre-created program that allows them to run through a protocol. And so what you'll see on the Programs tab is an opportunity to look at the programs that are available to you in your organization. You'll see that they're categorized by folder. You'll be able to see a full program breakdown as to what's included. The NeuroTracker team has pre-populated some pre-created programs for you to try out and take a look at. And if you have the advanced system, you'll also be able to build your own custom programs. And now that's something that we'll dedicate a separate webinar to, as I'll mention. But the last thing that's important to note here is that programs can be only archived. So if you have somebody in your organization that maybe accidentally deletes a program, it's really only archived. And the reason that we have that there is so that if they didn't realize that a user was using that program before it was deleted, it'll just be archived. So it doesn't disrupt the training progression for that user. So as I mentioned, you're going to go from the home page to the programs page. And what you'll see here is a list of core programs by default. And so the core programs are really designed off NeuroTracker research protocols. And so what they are is there's typically 30 sessions targeted towards a specific population, and they include assessments and consolidation training. So by clicking on one, you can see a full description as to why we designed the program, how many sessions are included, sort of who it's intended for. But then you can also on the right here see a full breakdown of the phases. So we see 2 baseline assessment phases, we see a consolidation, you can view what types of sessions they have and where those occur in the program. So with NeuroTracker X, you can allow them to choose up to 3 sessions. And so this provides you a full breakdown of what that flexibility for the training protocol looks like, and you can view that with any program. So those are the core programs, but we also have baseline assessments that you can assign. So if you just want a baseline assessment, and we also have add-on programs. And now the add-on programs are intended to really be building blocks to the core programs. And so, for example, at the bottom here, you see you can add 10 sessions at 4 targets, 10 sessions at 3 targets, 10 sessions at 2 targets. And this just allows you to really build onto the core programs. And like I said, if you accidentally delete or want to archive programs, you can view that by filtering this list here. So lastly, we have the Create Program function at the Core Programs tab. And really, because this is an advanced feature, it really requires its own webinar to discuss all the ways that you can uniquely build and customize your own programs. But despite us having 30 sessions in our core programs, you can create programs with as many sessions as you want, and with all the flexibility that we can offer in terms of advanced parameter control. So that's a really great feature that we'll cover in a separate webinar. So the next aspect of the platform that's also new to NeuroTracker X is the ability to look at and compare high-level performance statistics across your organization. And so we know with a standard user license, you can log in and see a user dashboard, and that provides you with a learning curve and all the great data specific to that user. But if you'd like to learn a little bit more about what's going on at an organizational level, you can go to the stats page, and that's going from the home page to the stats tab. And that is going to show 3 specific graphs that contextualize the data and have a high-level overview of performance. Now, these graphs can be customized so that you can filter the data by the users and the type of information that you're looking to see. Up to 10 users can be viewed at one time, and organization averages can be included as well. For the progression curve, which is the one we're going to spend a little bit more time on, normative references are also available to for this graph. And I'll also mention that the normative data, I know, is something that everybody has been interested in, and we're currently working with one of our academic partners to really make that data set a little bit more robust and specific to the training indications. So I'm sure there'll be some great things to come there. And the important icons on this page are the customized settings icon, the ability to view and hide data using the eye icon, and then the ability to download data. So if you want to export any of these graphs in an easy way that is available for printing, you can download, and that's available for you as well. So as I mentioned, you're going to go from the home page to the stats tab. And here you're going to see first the progression graph, and this allows you to compare learning curves over the duration of a program. So you can look at the learning curves over all of the sessions that somebody has completed and multiple people have completed. And so this is great for comparing overall performance. Then you have the baseline assessments graph, which allows you to compare where somebody started at their initial baseline relative to where they're at now with their current baseline. And so you can easily identify with the quadrants here who the high performers are in your indication. So this is a great performance type chart. And these data points are all interactive, so you can get a little bit more information about the specific points as to where they started with their initial versus their current. And then the third graph that we have down below here is the percent improvement graph. And so this allows you to compare multiple users across the program. And so take a look at percent improvement from initial baseline to current baseline, depending on why they were training, what the purpose is. This is great where you can get specific with the demographic data if you want to make direct comparisons. So all these graphs are quite interactive and very much in the same way. So we're just going to focus on one of them. And so you can see here what I mentioned is that you can hide and view data using these eye icons, but you can also filter the graph according to how you want it to be displayed using this feature here. So let's say we want low to high. And you can also remove averages from the system. So if you want to select users, you would go to the all users function and select all of the users in the organization. Like I said, up to 10 that you want to be able to have in view. And then you'll see them displayed in the list here. The next way you may want to customize this graph is by getting even more specific with the organization data. So here's where you can select the different groups. So that's where that group function that I mentioned comes in handy. You can also display normative data. So let's say females in the age of 22 to 35 over, let's say, the last month of time. If you had somebody coming in or groups coming in doing testing, you can apply these types of filters to make the data on the graph even more refined. And so let's say we set those parameters. You have your list of users here. You can also get even more specific to viewing by selecting users, and you'll see that their learning curve becomes highlighted. So it allows you to get even more distinct in understanding how that specific user compares to the other ones. And you can also see the individual training statistics across each session that they completed. So their scores, parameters, those types of things. And if you find any of the group data or organization data to be distracting, you can just hide it by removing these filters. So for example, removing the normative data, top 25%, bottom 25%. So you can definitely encourage that you play around with these graphs and see if you can pull some interesting insights, especially for performance indications. And like I mentioned, the other graphs, they function very much the same way as the top one. So you can get a little bit more granular in pulling out specific data metrics. Which you can see here with these individual users. So when it comes to the support and the resources available to you on the system, first and foremost, we have our technical support team, which is always available to assist, and you can reach out to them at support@neurotrackerx.com. And then we also have key resources that are available in the system. And so you can access these by going from the home page to the help tab. And so the administrator and user dashboards will each have their own help sections. And so this is most relevant for the onboarding type materials and the manuals. So if you access the administrator homepage, you'll see the administrator and trainer's guide. But if you access the help tab from the user dashboard, which I'll show you in a second, you'll have access to the user guide. So again, if you go to the help section, you'll see here we have the trainer's guide, and then we have lots of other resources that are available for you to access. And so, for example, we have how-to videos. The session mode videos are a great way to learn about all the different session types if you're not already familiar with them. And we have a science summary document that's always updated with the most recent research articles. And then we have options here to send feedback to us and email us if you have questions. When you access a user dashboard, you'll see that they also have their own help section, which will have the user guide. And so again, if the user is looking for education and tips about how to get themselves set up at home or to begin training on the system, that user guide has been designed with the language and the tips and tricks for the user specifically. So that's a great resource for them to have access to, and they can access that online. It'll direct them to the link. So one resource specifically that's new to NeuroTracker X and that we're continuously building out is NeuroTracker Academy. And so anyone who signs up for a NeuroTracker X organization will automatically be granted access to the certifications. So if you have the base system, you will automatically be granted access to the base certification. And if you purchase the advanced system, you will be able to have access to both the base and the advanced certifications. And so the NeuroTracker Academy uses a single sign-on, which means that you're going to log in using your NeuroTracker X credentials. And what we're also going to do starting today with this new series is start to build out more NeuroTracker X specific webinar content. So best practices, advanced features, and those will be housed, like I mentioned at the beginning, in NeuroTracker Academy as well. So what you're going to do is go to academy.neurotrackerx.com. And on this page, you'll be able to see a high-level overview of what's offered through NeuroTracker Academy. There are 2 certifications that are directly relevant to NeuroTracker X organizations. And like I said, those are the base and advanced certifications. So these provide the scientific onboarding and really provide you with best practices for applying NeuroTracker technologies to specialized populations, performance populations, understanding training progressions. So to access your course, all you have to do is come to the Access course page and My Account page. And this uses the same credentials as NeuroTracker X, as I mentioned. So you'll log in using your credentials. And upon clicking My Account again, what you'll see is the certifications that have automatically been assigned to you. So by clicking on one, you'll have the opportunity to take a look at the various modules and resources that are included for you. So it'll run like a standard course where you have short video modules followed by quizzes. And once you successfully complete those courses, you'll be granted a certificate. And if you have the advanced NeuroTracker X system, if you complete the advanced certification, you'll be able to unlock the custom program builder and the open training feature that are specific to the advanced system. So some key takeaways from today, NeuroTracker X is really a highly accessible and advanced platform for both on-site and virtual training. So the remote accessibility now is quite robust, and it's a fully integrated system that really promotes strong user engagement. You can quickly add new accounts to the system by using that create function that I mentioned, so bypassing the email invitation. But if you're simply signing up somebody for at-home training, the invite invitation is great so that they can set up their account on their own. Assigning programs really requires minimal oversight for remote training. And so those programs, again, you can go to that page and see a full breakdown as to what's included before you assign them to a new user. And unique organization level performance stats can be found on that stats page. So to help you contextualize what's happening in your organization. And lastly, NeuroTracker Academy certifications are available to all administrators and trainers who sign up to the NeuroTracker X system. And I'm going to hand it back over to Chris now.
Excellent, Francis. Excellent work. Thank you so much. And a big thank you as well to everyone that has attended and participated and answered questions. As Francis was speaking, I was answering a few questions. However, there are a few questions I think we'd like to get to now. that will address, some questions that I think everybody has. So Francis, the first question that came in was from Mamie out in France, and their question is why NeuroTracker X is still on the beta version. So I believe she's referring to the web version of NeuroTracker.
Yeah, exactly. So that would be the online browser version. And so the NeuroTracker X platform that you would download directly from the website. So the desktop version is our full release, and you're seeing releases on that all of the time. But the browser version was released to help support lower performing devices. So if you don't have all of the specifications to meet the desktop version, the browser version is available, but that is a beta release. And Chris, I don't know if you have anything to add to that as well.
No, yeah, the reason basically that we're saying it's in beta as well, just to add what Francis said, is because some of the displays we're still working on and making it a little bit more user-friendly for a browser version. So everything works fine with the web version. We're just sort of still refining it and making it look better. The next question that we had, Francis, was from Garrett Lawless. And his question was, what are the different kinds of sessions for?
Yeah, so the different session modes on NeuroTracker are really geared to drill into different attention types. And so the original core session was always the standard session on the system, and it's the most widely used in research. But for user engagement and motivation, we released variations of the core task that really drill into different types of attention. So for example, the selective session focuses on selective attention where you identify the blue target before the yellow targets. Distribute similarly where you have 4 blue and 4 yellow. And so it's a way to motivate users, but also a way to engage different attentional systems outside of the core exercise. So depending on the goals of training as well, you may find that some sessions are more relevant than others, depending on whether it's performance or medical applications. But certainly if you go to the YouTube channel, you'll be able to see a full demo of each of those sessions. And we have some information there as well as to where they can be applied in unique ways.
Exactly. In addition to what Francis said, you can also access these videos and find them in the help section within the application. If you click on help and then click on session modes, it'll direct you to our YouTube playlist that talks about all of the different session modes that we have. Thank you very much, Garrett. The next question that we had, Francis, was from Christopher, and he was asking if there is a test environment where we can play with and get used to the NeuroTracker X admin and trainer roles without having to pay for licenses.
So I think I understand the question. So when you sign up and you have an administrator account, you have access to your own personal training dashboard, and you can access that by going to the Welcome tab, and you'll be able to see My User Dashboard. And so that's a great way to assign programs, test out the programs, and test out the functionality without actually using one of your user licenses. And so by using the system on the administrator account, you're not accounting for any license, it's already included. So it's a great way to test out that functionality before you decide if you want to include any trainers on your organization.
Yeah, exactly. And again, Christopher, to get to that, you just need to log into your NeuroTracker X account. At the very top right, you'll see a button that says Welcome Christopher, or Welcome Your Name. You click on that and then click on My User Dashboard. And it's a good way to test the program. It's a good way to test the different session modes. So yeah, if there's any other questions regarding that, feel free to email us. The next question that we had, Francis, was from, and I'm not sure if you have a slide that shows this, but our question was from David. And he asked if we can print and export from within NeuroTracker X.
Yes, you can. And so you can do that both from the user dashboard as well as the administrator dashboard. And so when you download those graphs, they download in the background, and so you'll have access to them in your downloads folder. And they are designed to be printed. So they don't look exactly how they do in the system. We remove a lot of the color. They're grayscale type graphs. And so you can print those directly from the system if you want to have copies of learning rates or progression dashboards. And then separately, you can also download the Excel spreadsheets, which are available for just on a user level. You can't download Excel spreadsheet for organization level, like multiple users at once. But you can download the Excel file and then you can manipulate that as well. Or actually, I'm going to correct myself there. You can't download an Excel spreadsheet for the organization level statistics, but if you want to select multiple users in the organization tab, you will be able to export their data altogether.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Francis. We had another question come in from Francine, and she was asking, how long can a user train? So I think it's just, what are the recommended, how often should a person train? How long should they train for, et cetera?
Yeah, sure. So depending on the reason that the user is training, we'll have a standard training recommendation of about 3 times a week. And so that sometimes allows for every other day. Some high performing individuals will train 5 days a week. But really, it depends on the reason that they're training with you. So we have some individuals who will have short programs and then fade off into maintenance training. And so that could be anywhere from 3 to 6 months. We have some users who make this a regular part of their training, and they train every day. And it just cognitive training becomes a part of the routine, just as physical training does. And so that's a great aspect about the remote training capabilities as well, is that you can assign that to them at home and they can continue training despite maybe not seeing you regularly as much on site anymore. So I would say that it's highly flexible depending on what the goals are identified at your first assessment with them. Are they looking to come to you for performance or rehab type indications? And then from there, depending on how quickly they meet those goals, you can outline the training program. But it's really wide open for as little or as long. But I would say most people train on average 3 to 6 months and then go into a maintenance type training protocol where they, instead of training every other day, they may train once or twice a week.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Francis. So we've had quite a few questions come in, and unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get to every single question. However, I would highly recommend that if you do have additional questions or require any type of support, to email myself and our support staff at support@NeuroTrackerX.com. Again, that email is support@NeuroTrackerX.com. We'll go ahead. We had one last question, Francis. I know that you touched on this a little bit earlier. It was a question from Rob, and he asked, is there a clear and easy way to understand how certain scores rank, example in percentiles, compared to others? Would that data be available somewhere for athletes looking to know where their baseline ranks amongst their peers?
Yeah, so right now on the organization stats page, we have the ability to sort of at a high level compare your top 25% and your bottom 25% norms. But outside of the system, we have an online tool that you can access that serves as our normative database reference for now. And that can be accessed by going into the data and science guide that you can find in the help section. And so what you can do is go to that website and plug in the information. So it'll ask you for different demographic characteristics about the individual, the number of sessions that they've completed. And this allows you to compare single session results at 4 targets, 8 seconds. And so that would be a good place to start for comparing these session results. Like I said, that's in the data and science guide. And then, as I mentioned, we're also working with our academic partners right now to make that data set a little bit more robust and specific to the NeuroTracker X data. So that's something that we hope to release to you as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Francis. I don't have anything to add to that, so that's perfect. I'm just going to see if we have time for maybe one more question here. Okay, yeah. So there was a question from John as well that I wanted to get to. So John asked, NeuroTracker X can be run on Mac OS and iOS. So actually, currently, John, to answer that first part, currently NeuroTracker X can only be run on Mac OS. We don't have an iOS version that's available yet. However, there is one that's coming soon. The next part of his question is, how do users use the program optimally as in relation to distance to the screen? For example, an iOS device have very small screens. How close do you need to be from the screen?
Yeah, and I'll answer this question, and then just so that it for everybody's reference, this is available in the trainer's guide as well, and we also cover it in NeuroTracker Academy, which is great. But as a rule of thumb, you want to be roughly the distance back from the screen as the diagonal of the screen. So if you're training with a 60-inch TV, you're going to be about 60 inches back from the screen. Obviously, with smaller devices, you're going to need to be closer in order to maintain the optimal field of view for peripheral visual training. And so we don't typically recommend that the size of the screen is less than 10 inches, especially. But ideally, we would like to have people training on screens about 15 inches or larger, which would be your standard laptop or computer size. And so we do have measurements that you can follow, and those are all listed in the trainer guides for you as to how to set, and they're also included in the user guides as to how they can optimally set up their environment at home to maximize the training.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we don't have time to get to every single question. We've had so many come in, and we really thank you so much for your participation. This has been such a helpful and informative webinar. I'm going to take notes of all of the questions that have come in, and I will try to get back to you shortly after this webinar today. If anyone, like I said, has any other questions, please feel free to email us at support@neurotracker.net. Again, that's support@neurotrackerx.com, neurotrackerx.com. That is all for our webinar today. Again, Francis, thank you so much for doing this with us. Thank you everyone that came out and attended today and participated. We will have another webinar that we will send an email about shortly that will go into more of managing users and what the user dashboard is and some of the information that's there. So again, thank you so much everyone that came out today, and I wish you all a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.